Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for May 6th, 2019. This week, let's begin with equality. We hear that word thrown around an awful lot these days, so let's see what equality means to the social justice crowd. USC reconsiders pick for president after no finalists are women. Well, that sounds terrible, right? USC is looking for a new president and there wasn't a single woman in the entire group of finalists. Why, that's just straight old-fashioned misogyny. University of South Carolina has reopened its search for a new president after concern that its selection process did not account for the makeup of the student body. USC students read a letter asserting this during public presidential forums hosted earlier in April by the school, according to the state. At least 123 faculty members and 43 student organizations signed the letter. None of the 4 finalists for the USC presidency are females. Wait. So you narrowed down your search after, I assume, sorting through all the applications and probably doing interviews with those actually qualified, and you came up with 4 people. And in that group of 4 people, not a single one was a woman? Who ever heard of such a thing? The school told the Post and Courier that one of the semifinalists was female, but that she withdrew from the selection process before the next round of interviews. So there was a woman, and she withdrew from consideration. Those bastard misogynist pigs! How very dare they allow a woman to choose not to take this job? Dozens of protesters stood outside the USC's Alumni Center saying, "We want answers," and upon learning that the school would reopen the selection process, chanted, "This is what democracy looks like."
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Number 1, the selection of a college president isn't done by democracy, and it's certainly not done with a vote by students. Number 2, a screeching, protesting mob of butthurt whiners demanding submission to their vagina cult isn't democracy. Many of the protesters expressed concern over the legitimacy of former West Point Superintendent Lieutenant General Robert Caslen, one of the finalists, believing that he lacked the credentials to head USC. Here we go. Legitimate concerns, right? We don't believe this guy is actually qualified to head a university. And why not? Faculty and students criticized Caslen for a comment he made, which they perceived as blaming sexual assault on drinking. Some criticized Caslen as coming across as cold and commanding, according to the Post and Courier. But the former West Point superintendent appealed to USC trustees who desired a candidate who could reduce spending and obtain more money from donors and the state. Caslen was the only finalist who had led a college. Wait, run that by me again? Caslen was the only finalist who had led a college. So the only candidate who has previously led a college isn't qualified. Okay, I don't think we need to go any farther here. It's obvious at this point, isn't it? These ass clowns aren't insisting on female candidates. They're insisting on a female president. I mean, the board could have had 3 women and 1 man as finalists, but if they selected the man, the mob of imbeciles would still be whinging about misogyny, patriarchy, and representation. The simple fact is, they've decided that only vagina is qualified for this job, and they won't be happy with anything else. That is what equality means to them. But that's just male-female equality. What about race? What does racial equality mean to these folks? Professor with history of anti-white comments now says whiteness is terrorism. Modern racism in 3 easy steps. Step 1, declare whiteness is bad. Step 2, deflect accusations of racism by claiming that whiteness is a system rather than a skin color. Step 3, define whiteness as anything that does not explicitly advocate black supremacy. A Trinity College professor is in hot water after tweeting, "Whiteness is terrorism." Professor of Sociology Johnny Eric Williams followed that tweet with another saying, all self-identified white people, no exceptions, are invested in and collude with systematic white racism, white supremacy. See? Whiteness is an evil, racist system, and all white people perpetuate it. Racism 101. And the great thing about declaring whiteness is a system, well, you can declare black people are white supremacists too. Williams also called out former President and First Lady Barack and Michelle Obama. According to Hartford Courant, he said, I'm referring to Turning Point USA leader Candace Owens, other and less brazen but more insidious, dangerous white Negroes like Barry and Michelle Obama and many other white Negroes you encounter daily. See, now anyone you disagree with can be an evil white supremacist. Even the Obamas. Campus Reform spoke with a member of Trinity College Republicans regarding this professor, his most recent comments, and his past. Everyone really questions, even liberals, why is he still here, the student who wished to remain anonymous said. I think that's kind of a question a lot of people are asking is, he advocated for white genocide. Why is he still here? You know the answer to that. He's black. Firing him would be, you guessed it, racism. The college Republicans member said students are generally apathetic at the college, but that Williams has changed that. I think if you ask anyone on campus that is not as radical as he is, they will be like, he needs to go. Which is interesting because at Trinity College, most students are pretty apathetic toward really everything. So to have such a high defensive that an individual needs to go, that really says something. Yeah, it says you're all white supremacists, of course. The kid goes on to claim that this professor fails students just for shits and giggles and requires them all to sign a waiver when they take his class that they won't discuss anything he says outside of the class. I'm not going to dwell on it because it's just one student's anecdotal story. If true, though, you'd think that might be something the administration would look into. But evidently they don't because, they don't want to be racists or anything. So this racist gets to go on telling everyone else they're racist because that is how equality works in social justice land. Now, at this point, you might be asking yourself why we need social justice. Well, for one thing, we need to combat all that damn male privilege in society, right? And what does male privilege look like? Mom who had sex with boy 14 cleared of abuse, as she thought he was over 18. A mom who twice had sex with a 14-year-old boy has been cleared of abuse after claiming she believed he was over 18. Male privilege is so ingrained in every aspect of our society that we let adult women get away with fucking kids. Down with the patriarchy, huh? Kimberly Abell, 33, lured the child into a sexual encounter in front of his friend after getting drunk at a party, a court heard. She drank half a bottle of vodka, half a bottle of I don't even know what the fuck that is, and shots before asking the schoolboy, "Aren't you going to fuck me?" When the boy's mom reported the incident to police months later, Abell was arrested and charged with 2 counts of sexual activity with a child. After a trial at Warwick Crown Court, she was found not guilty of both charges yesterday. Now you can go read all the gritty details if you like, but it boils down like this. She fucked him. Twice. Once that night after drinking a whole lot, and again in the morning. She claims she thought he was 18, even though she had had previous discussions with the boy's mother about their children, and would thus have a pretty good idea how old the kid was. Yet somehow the patriarchal jury believed her and acquitted. Nice, huh? After a few drinks, rape a kid twice, claim ignorance about his age, and poof, off you go back into society with no consequences. Male privilege in action, folks. So how far does a woman have to go before the patriarchy holds her responsible? Evil stepmom beat and starved girl 10 to death before burning her body in a bin. A mother who starved her 10-year-old stepdaughter to death has been sentenced to die by lethal injection. Evil Tiffany Moss starved Imani by keeping her confined to her room, denying her any food and water. She then went on to try and burn her emaciated body in a rubbish bin in 2013. Moss, 36, from Georgia, also tortured the youngster by punching her for around a week before she tragically succumbed to her stepmother's cruelty. During the cruelty, Moss cared and provided for her own 2 children well in the same apartment. A jury at Gwinnett County Court took 2.5 hours to deliberate before returning their guilty verdict, and Moss was sentenced to death by lethal injection. Moss was found guilty of all counts, including murder, cruelty to children, and trying to conceal the death of Imani by burning her body in a trash can. She weighed just 32 pounds when she died. Yep. Evidently, starving, beating, killing, and burning the dead body of a kid is just about the limit of that patriarchal leniency. But don't you worry, folks. It's men that are toxic, right? Men are the problem with society. If we'd only put women in charge of everything, society would be so peaceful and loving. Woman accused of driving over boyfriend twice, killing him. Arizona woman runs over boyfriend with car, claims she blacked out. Black widow hired a hitman because divorce money just wasn't enough. Georgia mother pleads guilty to killing husband and 4 children. Arkansas woman convicted of killing husband for his refusal to quit porn. Texas mom arrested in death of 6-week-old daughter. Infant had one of the worst skull fractures doctor had ever seen. Wisconsin woman pleads guilty to terrorism charges. So let's see. Killing boyfriends, killing husbands, hiring hitmen to kill husbands, killing children, killing kids, then blaming other kids, and some run-of-the-mill terrorism. Yep, society would be so peaceful if women were in charge of everything, huh? Thankfully, they're not all criminal masterminds. Woman reportedly calls 911, asks how to kill her boyfriend. 911, what's your emergency? How do I kill my boyfriend? That's it for this week. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.